Nag-stop ba yung timer? Sorry.
Yes,
Okay. Akala ko ako yung naglalag.
sa office. Ito lang muna natin silang mag-go. Tapos, let's start.
Okay.
Sir Rai, I'll share screen for now po.
Sige, Lorraine. Thank you.
Kita naman na po, Sir Rai, on your end.
Yes. Can we
Okay
start
po.
now, Lorraine?
Yeah, we can start na po.
All right. So, magandang umaga po, maayong buntag sa inyong tanan, and of course, good morning to every one of us. Welcome po to our Usapang Kape learning session where we will explore the rich and dynamic Philippine coffee industry. By the way, ako po pala si Ryan of PPSA and I will be your host for today's session po ngayong umaga. Ano po? Today, we are excited to have two esteemed speakers who will share their insights on enhancing sustainability and fostering a more inclusive coffee value chain for smallholders, smallholder farmers. This is a timely discussion, lalong-lalo na ang International Coffee Day ay sinicelebrate natin every October 1. Sabi nga ng theme for this year ng International Coffee ngayong taon, no, ay Coffee Your Daily Ritual, Our Shared Journey. Ayun, kaya naman sa ating usapang kape ngayong araw, we will highlight the importance of coffee, not just a beverage or inumin, no, the usual, but as a vital part of our culture, our agriculture sector, and economy. So ngayon naman po, kung handa na kayong isahan ang ating morning session, send naman kayo ng inyong mga emoticon po dyan po sa baba ng ating pwede po kung anong yung inyong feelings for today. If you're happy, just click the happy emoticon. If you're in love, click the heart. Sana wala namang sad for today's session. Ayun, may mga nakikita na ako nagkiklik ng emoticon. Thank you for the heart, Miss Veronica. Okay, but before we start, meron po tayong mga house rules. Ano po? So, or alituntunin. So, today, session is online. This session is being recorded. Ano po? So, and also you can use your online name. For example, hindi ako babaguhin ko po ang aking screen name. You can use or rename like Ryan and then dash, then your organization, your co-op organization, your company, your school. So, ayun po. Like, for example, Ryan of dash PPSA. So, ayun po. And of course, pangatlo, please remain on mute while our speakers po ay ongoing ang kanilang presentation. And we encourage everyone po na mag-unmute and of course mag-participate po during the Q&A portion. Ano po, sana po marami po kayong na-share or mga katanungan habang naandyan po ang ating dalawang butihing speakers ngayong araw. Ano po? And of course, if you are experiencing po ng any technical difficulties po no sa inyong habang kasi nga online tayo, yung internet connection or other concerns, pwede po yung i-chat po sa ating chat box po sa baba para po tayo ay matulungan ng ating team from our team. Okay, ito po ang pinakang huli, pero ito po yung pinakang importante. Gawin po nating safe space po ang ating usapan ngayong umaga. Walang tama, walang mali. Lahat po tayo ay mag-share ng ating mga thoughts and pwede po tayo during the Q&A portion. Ano po? So, we encourage you all. So, ayun. And now, to formally start po ng our session today, may we call on Miss Juliet Lucas for their welcoming remarks and share with us a brief overview of the coffee sector. So, wala pong iba, Miss Juliet. Good morning po. The floor is yours. Ma'am. Lorraine, do you have the welcome video of Miss Juliet?
Hello, wait lang po. I cannot share screen po. Hindi po ako maka-share screen since si Miss Veron yung um,
Walang sound, Lorraine.
Lorraine, Veronica will share.
Good morning. A pleasant morning to our esteemed discussants and participants of today's Usapang Kape. I understand this is a discussion of relative to the Philippine coffee industry. It is heartening to see such a significant assembly of passionate individuals and organizations dedicated to the growth and sustainability of this huge and challenging Philippine coffee industry. We have today PPSA. Thank you for the invitation. GIZ Philippines, Nestlé Philippines, IVC Philippines, among others. And I am delighted to welcome you to this forum. As the National Industry Cluster Coordinator for Coffee at the Department of Trade and Industry, I had the privilege of overseeing the implementation of our strategic plans. These are efforts that are crucial as we strive to achieve the objectives laid out in the Philippine Coffee Industry Roadmap for 2022 to 2025. Our coffee industry roadmap is a manifestation of our collective vision. The roadmap was crafted using the value chain approach after a series of consultations with various stakeholders. It should be the common reference of all stakeholders and enablers. Voluntary participation of all stakeholders, when given the opportunity, is also imperative in the periodic monitoring, evaluation, and updating of the roadmap and the strategic action plan to achieve the goals. And that we should be continuously doing relevant interventions to the development agenda of the industry. The roadmap presents our aspiration to enhance the competitiveness. This is in the vision. Productivity and sustainability of the Philippine coffee industry. Our goals are ambitious, but they are grounded in the reality of what we can achieve through collaboration and innovation. Let us take a moment to reflect on the current landscape of the Philippine coffee industry. Over the past years, we have witnessed remarkable growth and transformation. Our coffee farmers, processors, and entrepreneurs have shown resilience and ingenuity, adapting to new challenges and seizing opportunities for improvement. Notable statistics are, we have a per capita consumption that is expected to at 3.78 kilograms per person by 2025. Around 80% of Filipinos drink an average of 2.5 cups per day. This indicates a strong daily habit among the population. 93% of the households in the Philippines buy coffee every week, making it a continuing staple. Spending on coffee in 2022 is an average of $44 per person on instant coffee, highlighting the preference for convenience. That's our default coffee. Growth trends. We are experiencing a 4.4 year-on-year growth rate in coffee consumption, making it the second largest consumer of coffee in Asia, next to Japan. It is noteworthy that the quality improvement has been in the forefront over recent years, which resulted from the annual conduct of the Philippine Coffee Quality Competition since 2018. We just announced the 2025 PCQC. With this, the direction turned to growth of specialty coffee and establishment of coffee shops accelerated with about 16,000 cafes and bars by the end of 2023, more of which are independent and creative enterprises than coffee chains. The value of coffee increased, which motivated investment in coffee production. However, pricing are now being fixed in the market as it began to spike due to imbalance of supply and demand. While loyalty to local coffees heightened with the emergence of quality specialty coffees, cafes realized that prices should be rationalized. The PSA data show increase in production of green coffee beans from 30,000 metric tons in 2020 to 40,000 metric tons in 2022. But then it slightly declined in 2023 to 37,000 metric tons. But this is far from meeting our roadmap objective of 214,000 metric tons by 2025, as market increases exponentially in the Philippines. The market value of coffee in the Philippines is currently at 106 billion pesos, with compounded annual growth rate of 8%. That is according to the market report of Euromonitor. Philippine coffees and Filipino competencies are likewise widening its radar in the global value chain, thanks to the international exposures where Philippines is represented. Increased production and productivity amid the threats of climate change remain to be the big challenge, unless the Philippines would want to continue to be a big net importer, making the balance of trade a huge negative. The roadmap targets an area planted of 300,000 hectares by 2025, with an average yield of 1 ton per hectare. As of now, about 200,000 hectares are planted, with an average yield of 0.5 to 0.8 tons per hectare. That is very far from the benchmark, which is Vietnam at 2.4 tons per hectare, or even higher than that with the infusion of a lot of technology therein. The coffee industry in the Philippines is characterized by a high competitive rivalry and big threats of potential entrants. Foreign coffee chains and agri-companies are already venturing into these businesses in the country, while Filipinos are generally smallholder farmers, with 95% of the farms measuring less than 5 hectares with low productivity. And cafes are more independent, small, and slower in product development. Having this in our plate, our plans in the coming years should be more innovative and strategic, with more competitive business models among industry players that are provided responsive interventions provided from government, networks, and private enablers. We promote investment from big coffee companies in smart coffee farming, as we support cooperating small farmers that is easily supported by government to adopt good agricultural practice and other scientific processes resulting from dynamic research and development. We support quality improvement and coffee businesses that continue to innovate revenue streams through clustering with other industries like food and tourism. We in DTI are committed to develop inclusive and innovative businesses that remain and made stronger with a very strong industry and with a high growth trajectory. The coffee industry has come this strong. Cheers to a more progressive coffee industry. We continue to see an upward trajectory in both production and quality. The efforts to elevate Philippine coffee in the global market are bearing fruit, as evidenced by the increasing recognition of our coffee's unique flavor. Our fine Robusta is a big surprise, and it is also sought for as we look forward to the drama of Liberica and Excelsa. However, our journey is far from over. We still face significant challenges, including climate change, fluctuating market prices, and the need for further investment in infrastructure and technology to increase production and productivity. Addressing these challenges require concerted efforts from all stakeholders, from government agencies to private enterprises, from local communities to international partners. Today's discussion is a testament to our shared commitment to the future of the Philippine coffee industry. As we engage in meaningful conversations and exchange ideas, let us remember that each of us has a role to play. Together, we can build a more robust and resilient coffee sector, one that uplifts the lives of the farmers and brings pride to our nation. Once again, welcome, and we look forward to a fruitful discussion and collaborative endeavors that will arise from this activity. Thank you and good morning.
Maraming salamat po, Ms. Juliet Lucas, for that warm welcome. Excited na ba kayong simulan ang ating usapan? So tara na at ilabas po ninyo ang ating mga bags or ating mga kape and let's get brewing. Okay, first, Nestlé Philippines has been a significant player in the coffee industry for many years, focusing on sourcing local coffee beans and supporting farmers through various initiatives. One of their key programs is the Nescafe Plan, aimed to increase the yield and quality of local Robusta coffee beans, ultimately improving farmers' incomes and the sustainability of the industry. Our first speaker is Mr. Donald June Pietra, the Regenerative Agriculture Ambassador, agronomist, and Government in Industry Affairs Executive of Nestlé Philippines Incorporated. So Donald will talk about Nestlé experience in implementing sustainable coffee farming programs, such as capacity building on regenerative agriculture and shade-grown coffee, and how these practices benefits both farmers and the environment. He will also touch on emerging trends on the global coffee market and how Philippine coffee can seize these opportunities. So wag na po natin patagalin, samahan niyo po ako ng i-welcome. Wala pong iba sa Sir Donald. Sir Donald, magandang umaga po.
Magandang umaga, Ryan. Magandang umaga po sa lahat. First of all, I would like to thank the Philippine Partnership for Sustainable Agriculture for inviting me to be a resource speaker at your Usapang Kape webinar. So every October 1st po, we celebrate International Coffee Day, a day that brings coffee lovers together to appreciate this drink and support the farmers who grow it. This event raises awareness of the hard work behind the coffee we enjoy and promotes fair trade practices. So today, as we recognize the efforts of coffee farmers, I hope my presentation will highlight how each of us can play a part in boosting the Philippine coffee industry and improving farmers' lives. But before I start my presentation, I'd like to introduce to you Nestlé Philippines. Next slide, please. So we have been in the country for over 113 years. We are the 10th largest company in the country in terms of revenue, and we are contributing 0.8% to Philippines' GDP. We pay around 24 billion in taxes every year since 2018. Our administration office is at Rackwell, Makati, and we have 5 manufacturing sites, 4 in Luzon and 1 in Cagayan de Oro. We also have 6 distribution centers and 1 shared service center in Bulacan. We directly and indirectly employ over 50,000 households. So nakikita niyo po sa screen are some of the Nestlé brands, which I'm sure you have grown up with and hopefully are near and dear to your heart. Through our brands, we aim to enable our healthier and happier lives and be a force for good for society. So this morning, I'm happy to share with you how Nestlé is making a difference in the lives of our coffee farmers. But before we delve into that, I would like to share with you the status of the Philippine coffee industry. So majority of coffee production in the Philippines is in Mindanao, accounting for 84% of the total production. And majority of coffee produced is Robusta, accounting for 69% of the total coffee production. So there are 4 varieties thriving in the Philippines. So we have Robusta, Arabica, Excelsa, and Liberica. So given that Mindanao produces the most of coffee in the Philippines, Nestle focus efforts in the region, highlighting the 2 biggest growers of Robusta in Bukidnon and Sultan Kudarat. In the next slide. So in the Philippines, we almost import everything despite of the rising popularity of coffee as a beverage, and despite of the fact that our country is the 2nd largest consumer of coffee in Asia, and we are the 5th largest coffee consumer in the world, our production has been dropping. Our average annual local consumption is 200,000 metric tons, while our production is only 30,000 metric tons. Our self-sufficiency is very low, and because the government support is not enough, as the budget for high-value crops is not sufficient, as the budget for HVCDP or high-value crops is being shared by many other crops and spread in many regions, there is really a need for a more focused program and budget for coffee. In the Philippines, coffee is not a priority crop. The priority crops are rice and corn. In fact, for 2024, the allocated budget for rice is 30 billion pesos compared to the budget for high-value crops, which is 1.9 billion. And this 1.9 billion will be shared by many other crops, and also the budget for coffee will be shared by 4 varieties. We have Robusta, Arabica, Excelsa, and Liberica. Another concern is that 97% of our coffee farmers in the Philippines are smallholder farmers, which means they own less than 5 hectares of farmland. And unfortunately, they face challenges in accessing Nestle buying stations due to an inadequate infrastructure and transportation. Majority are traditional farmers. They stick to traditional practices and resist change, resulting in low yield. Sa Pilipinas po, our national average is only 400 to 500 kilograms per hectare, compared to Vietnam, which has an average of around 2 to 3 tons per hectare. Another concern is that our farmers are already aging. The average farmer's age is 57, and meron po tayong concerning decline of youth interest to agriculture. Karamihan po sa mga kabataan, they are leaving the farms and pursue careers outside agriculture and leaving the older generation without successors. In the next slide, this is where the Nescafe plan comes in. So Nescafe plan is the longest running farmer support program of Nestlé, which aimed at ensuring sustainable supply of local green coffee beans and uplifting the lives of Filipino coffee farmers. Our model revolves around 6 streams. So we have sustained technical training and application of good agricultural practices. We have responsible sourcing, regenerative agriculture, organizing coffee farmers, competitive price for suppliers, and nurturing the next generation of coffee farmers. So in the first component, we recognize the importance of good agricultural practices in coffee farming to increase yield and income. To support our farmers, we have a very dedicated agri-services team who provide training on good agricultural practices, responsible sourcing, and regenerative agriculture. In fact, we registered in the Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Plant Industry, 7 high-yielding and pest and disease-tolerant Robusta selections for distribution to farmers. Farmers usually have this perception that farming is not a lucrative livelihood. In partnership with GIZ, we launched the Project Coffee Plus in 2018 to transform our farmers into agripreneurs using the Farmer Business School tool. We teach them to diversify their farms, intercropping and vegetable and livestock integration to get additional income aside from coffee. We ensure that our farmers meet our sustainability standards. So for responsible sourcing, we ensure that our farmers adhere to the Nestlé's requirements, and also our coffee meets the coffee that we buy meets the sustainability standards. For regenerative agriculture, we recognize the threat of climate change to the long-term sustainability of coffee agriculture. That's why, aside from increasing farmers' yields and income, we also place priority on soil health and biodiversity. So we teach our farmers regenerative agriculture practices that will help them secure the soil and make the coffee growing community climate resilient. The fourth component is organizing farmers. So we encourage farmers to form associations or cooperatives. So this will serve as a platform for them to get access from government support. And we also offer competitive prices to suppliers. The pricing is determined based on the global market price, ensuring fairness and transparency. By offering competitive prices, Nestlé aims to support the economic well-being of coffee suppliers and foster long-term partnerships that benefit both Nestlé and our coffee suppliers. Additionally, and the last component, we promote youth engagement in agriculture through the Nescafe Kapit Bisig sa Pagbangon Educational Assistance Program that I'll be discussing later. We have awarded 400 college students with educational grant from 3 partner universities. In the next slide. Of course, we recognize that achieving our goals requires collaboration, and we cannot do this alone. So we need the support of our partners from the government, non-governmental organizations, and the private sector. I'm happy to share with you that we had a MOA signing with TESDA, or Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, to upskill farmers and trainers in the agriculture sector through TESDA accredited coffee production level 2 in the next 5 years. So currently, there are already 1,051 indigenous people, women, and youth granted scholarship since 2021. In the next slide, we also had a partnership with the Department of Agriculture for the implementation of the Mindanao Robusta Coffee Project. Last year, we had a MOA signing with the DA to implement this project. The goal here is to allow our farmers to get access to government support, including post-harvest facility, training, fertilizers, and also research and development. Next slide is, we also partner with German Development Cooperation, or GIZ, to implement the Project Coffee Plus in 2018. And now, I'm happy to share with you that we are launching the Project Coffee Plus Plus, the second phase of our Project Coffee Plus. So aside from increasing farmers' yields and income, ang layunin po ng Project Coffee Plus Plus would is to enhance climate resilience and promote regenerative agriculture practices. In the next slide. So cognizant of the fact that kinakailangan mo talaga ang fertilizer application and it's directly proportional to increased yield. So in-implement po namin ang Farmers Grow Project. Ang Farmers Grow Project po is a multi-stakeholder project of Nestlé, Philippines Partnership for Sustainable Agriculture, and PBSP, or Philippine Business for Social Progress. So we partner with leading input companies including Yara, Atlas, Nature Tech, Harvest, and Bioprime. Ang layunin po ng Farmers Grow Project is to improve the agricultural practices and support the technical needs of our farmer members of cooperatives through the collective impact approach, bringing in the collective expertise of the implementing partners in crop nutrition. And in the next slide, we also partner with an agricultural state university to conduct research on balanced fertilization for coffee, funded by the Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Agricultural Research. The study aims to identify which combination of organic and inorganic fertilizer can give our farmers the best profit, but also securing soil health. And also, we partner with agricultural state universities in Mindanao for the Nescafe Kape Bisig sa Pagbangon Educational Assistance Program to help encourage young people to pursue agriculture. And to give you an overview of what Kapit Bisig sa Pagbangon Educational Assistance Program is all about, please watch this video. The next slide, please.
Coffee farming affects the lives of millions of Filipinos. But our coffee farmers are getting older and there aren't enough new ones to continue their legacy.
Sa panahon ngayon, karamihan sa mga kabataan ay kinukuha ang nursing, education, criminology. Kaya po, ang bilang na person ng agriculture ay lumiliit.
How do we support a new generation that can carry the torch? We built an educational fund worth 10 million pesos with the help of millions of coffee and music lovers nationwide. To do this, we took the fastest way to a Filipino's heart. Filipinos know that agriculture is important because of farming songs. Farming life has also been captured in art as an essential part of Filipino culture. So we used art and the popular uplifting Nescafe brand song to challenge people into working hand in hand with us in support of local coffee farmers. Introducing Nescafe's Kapit Bisig Music Challenge. We challenged people to help us spread awareness by reaching a total of 1 million posts and engagements on social media using the Babangon Tayo song. In return, Nescafe would match this with a 10 million peso educational fund. We brought together some of the Philippines' biggest music artists and creators to spearhead the challenge. We got people singing, dancing, creating, interacting, and sharing their coffee stories on social media. The campaign was further amplified on TV, out of home, and trade. We then aired a TV commercial that showed how proud we are of our Filipino coffee farmers. This featured art that helped illustrate their daily lives. This TVC included a call to action for the music challenge. Progress was shown through updates on social media, and in just a few days, the goal was already achieved. The Kapit Bisig Music Challenge became Nescafe Philippines' most successful campaign of 2023. Best of all, hundreds of future coffee farmers enrolled in partner agriculture universities are now benefiting from the educational fund, thanks to Filipinos who took on the challenge of securing their future.
Babangon
Coffee farming affects the lives.
So I'm also delighted to inform you that our Bukidnon Integrated Coffee Center has received accreditation from the Department of Agricultural Training Institute as a learning site for agriculture. It serves as an educational venue for farmers from various LGUs, or local government units, and other stakeholders interested in learning about coffee production. So our facility is located within the Department of Agriculture Region 10 Research Complex in Barangay Dalwangan, Malaybalay, Bukidnon. And the government has provided us with 5 hectares of land where we've established our integrated coffee center. So sa lahat po ng interesadong bumisita at gustong matuto about coffee production, you can visit our integrated coffee center in Malaybalay, Bukidnon. And we can also do training for the local government units and other stakeholders who are interested to learn about coffee production. We were also able to empower our farmers with the support of Project Coffee Plus to pursue accreditations of their farms as learning sites under Department of Agriculture ATI. So currently po, ang mga coffee ambassadors or 5 coffee ambassadors namin, yung kanilang mga farms are already accredited by the Agricultural Training Institute as learning site for agriculture. And as of what I've mentioned earlier, that we recognize the threat of climate change to the long-term sustainability of coffee agriculture. So kailangan po talaga nating i-train ang ating mga farmers paano alagaan ang lupa at biodiversity aside from increasing their yield and income. So nasa journey na kami towards regeneration. So to the Nescafe plan, we teach regenerative agriculture practices to help our farmers nurture the soil and make coffee growing communities more resilient. So we teach our farmers common regenerative agriculture practices such as composting, agroforestry, intercropping, and cover crops. So regenerative agriculture is about farming responsibly in a way that it nurtures and the 3 key natural resources. We have soil, water, and biodiversity to ensure the present and future supply of raw materials while reducing dependence on chemical inputs, building resilience, and most importantly, improving livelihoods. And to give you an overview of what regenerative agriculture is, please watch this video.
Madalas akong tanungin kung ano ang susi sa masaganang ani. Kako, malusog na lupa.
Ang regenerative agriculture ay isang paraan ng pagsasaka na nais maibalik, protektahan at lalong mapasigla ang lupa, tubig at ang natural ecosystem dito. Every time a farmer harvest, kinukuha ng tanim ang mga important nutrients sa lupa. At pag hindi natin ito ibalik, makakaapekto ito sa susunod na harvest.
Mayroon pa bang agriculture kung ang lupa mismo patay na? Ni damo hindi natutubo. Wala na.
Maraming practices ang regenerative agriculture na tumutulong ma-improve ang soil health at biodiversity. But in Nestlé, we teach 4 common practices of regenerative agriculture. There is composting, intercropping, agroforestry, and cover crops.
Ako, nag-innovate ako sa composting. Ang ginagawa ko, yung lahat ng mga tuyong dahon, ini-sprayhan ko na lang siya ng EM solution. Mas lalo siyang nakakatulong na ma-enhance yung paglaki ng mga ugat. Ito yung intercropping setup namin. Kaya ako nagtanim ng abaka. Kasi yung kape, once a year lang siya ang harvest season. Pero ang abaka, pwede ako mag-harvest anytime. Yung agroforestry, mas baon yung ugat niya sa lupa. Hindi lang soil erosion ang kaya niyang pigilan, maski landslide. Ang cover crops, nagsisilbing proteksyon at tumutulong sa pagtaba ng lupa dito. Yung dalawa, yung agroforestry at saka cover cropping, same goal lang sila. Yun nga lang, yung agroforestry, nasa taas sila, yung cover cropping, gumagapang sa lupa. Ang pinakasentro talaga is ibalik yung fertility ng lupa. Yun ang pinaka-basic na foundation niya.
We at Nestlé recognize that the best way to keep our promise of good food, good life, is to equip our farmers with the best knowledge in agriculture.
Nakapagtayo kami ng bahay, nakabili ng additional parcel o farmland. Wala akong kahit isang pulgadang pagsisisi. May panahon pa para maiwasan natin mawala ng malusog na lupa na pwedeng pagtaniman ng mga anak natin at sa mga susunod pa nating mga henerasyon. Sana sa mga kapwa ko magsasaka, alagaan natin ang ating mga lupa para alagaan din tayo nito pabalik.
Babangon tayo, susulong tayo.
And in the next slide, as a result of our intervention, we've tripled the yield and income of our participating farmers. This provides a proof of concept na kung mag-apply ang ating mga farmers ng good agricultural practices, may increase nila ang yield and income. In the next slide. So this is our vision for 2030. So we aim to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, increase farmers' income, and create better social conditions. So ang layunin po namin, starting 2025, we will source 100% responsibly sourced coffee and source 20% of our coffee through regenerative agriculture methods. And by 2030, we source 50% of our coffee through regenerative agriculture methods and 50% greenhouse gas emission reduction. And lastly, collaboration and the implementation of sustainable practices are key in shaping the future of the coffee sector. That concludes my presentation. Thank you everyone for your attention.
Maraming salamat, Sir Donel, for your insightful presentation. It's clear that sustainability is the key to ensuring the future of our coffee industry. Ano po? So, sa ating mga participants who would like to ask questions for our speaker, please share your questions sa ating Zoom chat box below po. Your comments naman sa Facebook Live. Sa mga sumama sa amin sa Facebook na nanonood ngayon, pwede po kayong mag-comment ng inyong mga questions at yan po ay kukunin ng ating team para try po natin i-share sa ating mga speaker during the Q&A portion later on. Ano po? Kaya sa mga kasama natin sa Zoom ngayon, mag-chat na po kayo ng question nyo kung meron na kayong naiisip or pwede po kayong mag-notes na para mamaya ay makapag-share kayo ng question. Okay, so ngayon naman, let's take a closer look at the opportunities that will help us foster a more inclusive coffee value chain. Ano po? Save the best for last, ika nga, the Inclusive Value Chain IVC Philippines project funded by the Australian Center for International Agricultural Research aims to enhance the design, implementation, and adoption of inclusive value chains in smaller farming system in the Philippines by exploring roles, conditions, and specific value chain interventions that improve engagement and benefit the livelihoods of farmers, their communities, and their chain partners. The project is implemented by the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, who are partnering with Foodlink Advocacy Cooperative, University of the Philippines, Mindanao, Visayas State University, University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Australian National University, the University of Queensland, the Philippine Council for Agriculture and Aquatic and Natural Resources Research, and Development, and of course, the PPSA. Our second speaker from Foodlink Advocacy Cooperative, the General Manager, wala pong iba, i-welcome po natin, samahan niyo ako, si Mr. Anton Simon Palo, who will share with us the challenges faced by the smallholders coffee farmers and opportunities for stakeholders to co-design interventions for agricultural development. So, Sir Anton, kumusta? And the floor is yours.
Maraming salamat, Ryan. At okay naman tayo dito. And syempre, good morning to everyone nandito po sa ating forum ngayon. So, mag-share lang po ako ng screen. Wala po kaming government and industry affairs. Maliit lang po ang team namin. So, but anyway, so salamat din Ryan for already talking about the project we have. That will certainly save a lot of my time for the presentation po. So ito po, sabi nga ni Ryan, yung Inclusive Value Chains Philippines, hindi ko na po i-introduce, but basically we'll go ahead with the presentation po. So start po na ating presentation. I would just like to show bakit, kasi we have two project sites, Cebu City and Sultan Kudarat. And we chose Sultan Kudarat for coffee. And the reason is that very simple. It's simply the largest source of coffee robusta in the country. Ito po lumalabas pag tinignan po natin yung Region 12, yung Soxcargen, base sa Philippine Statistics Authority OpenStat. They do have 35.4% of the total national coffee supply. Tapos yung Sultan Kudarat actually covers 33.18% of the entire country's supply. So malaki pong deal na pag-usapan ng Sultan Kudarat. Now, so bibilisan ko lang po ito. Alam ko naman na marami sa inyo experts na sa kape, so malamang alam niyo na to. In which case, tapos when we zeroed in, we chose calamansi. Why? Because it's also one of the biggest suppliers of coffee. In this case, 38.44% of the provincial supply base sa SK Coffee Project survey na ginawa ng 2021-2022. You might be able to talk with the Sultan Kudarat Coffee Council for more information on this. They have all the information given by Mahintana Foundation and as funded by the USAID. Now, and before I proceed to yung mga further discussions on itong ating inclusive value chains on coffee, I would also like to just settle a record straight in terms of value chains, or at least magkaintindihan lang tayo. Ano ba to? Kasi lagi natin naririnig to. Ang simpleng paraan ng pagkaintindi sa value chain ay kumbaga value chains create what is of value to customers when it comes to products and services. Ano ba yung mahalaga sa mga bibili ng mga produkto at the end of the day? Yun lang naman yung nais sabihin ng value chain. As opposed to yung supply chain, which is yung usual discussion, paano ba ginagawa itong produkto o yung mga serbisyong to. Of course, lagi silang magkasama, pero very important to focus on ano ba yung mahalaga. Now, so mabilis lang po ito sana, but basically, ang sinasabi lang naman ng value chains are how do we make the customer at the end satisfied. And usually the analysis goes like this. Yan, titignan yung COGS, titignan ano ba yung profit margin, tapos yung selling price. Usually dyan na po natatapos yung discussion sa value chain reports na nakita natin. When in fact, dapat mag-extend siya. Ano ba yung willingness to pay ng mga customers in the first place? Hanggang saan ba ang kaya nilang bayaran for these kinds of products? So for example, magkano ba ang 3-in-1 ngayon ng Nestlé? 15 pesos. So tingin ba natin, kaya pang i-push yun to 18, 20 pesos, something like that. So it really depends on the customer at the end. Diba? We need to understand what they want. And this is actually where we begin to we need to see benefits. Ano ba yung benefits na nakukuha nila? Ano ba yung talagang gusto nila masatisfy when we're talking about consuming these goods? Dito, papasok yung surplus benefits or yung value created na sinasabi. So, usually, pag sinasabi natin na tataas natin yung selling price para makuha natin yung, parang i-monetize natin yung surplus benefits natin yan or yung value created. Yan po yung tinatawag natin yung value capture. Ang madalas na pinag-uusapan, but in fact, parang kulang pa siya sa value chain discussion, ay yung value added. Na actually, yung nangyayari lang po, tumataas yung expenses para ma-drive yung selling price. But if you do it this way, kasi hindi naman talaga natatranslate yan into net profits. Ayan. So very quickly, but I don't want to dwell into this. At least meron lang tayong mga terms to think about. So the usual way na depict natin ng mga value chains sa mga reports ay like this, di ba? Yung para from yung upstream to downstream. So from the farmer to the trader to the roaster and grinders to the cafes and then to the consumer. But in reality, value chains are very complex. So maraming farmers, maraming traders, maraming processors, maraming distribution, maraming consumers, lahat po yan nag-i-interact, lahat po yan nagko-compete, lahat po yan nagko-collaborate. So we need to take that into consideration na complexity is really part of the way itong mga value chains work. At laging mangyayari yan, laging nandyan yan. Pero we can see it as more messy pa nga kasi paminsan-minsan yung mga ibang actors kumbaga will actually cover multiple functions. Yan, kunyari kung integrated actor ka, then pwede ka maging farmer and trader, which is actually happening a lot. Or pwede ka rin magkaroon ng mga monopolies, oligopolies, or pwede ka rin magkaroon ng talagang very, very competitive areas. Like kunyari if you're in sa cafes, for example, coffee shops ngayon, ang dami na. Not just yung mga the usual suspects like Coffee Bean, Starbucks, but you also have yung mga coffee pop-up stands na that are actually all over the place right now. So those are all players that actually interact with our value chain. If we have to do it in a very earnest and genuine way, ganitong ka-complex dapat yung ating mga reports. But of course, we understand it actually takes a lot of resources to do that. So, yun po yung ating, kumbaga, panimula. Kasi, eventually, we have to see a value chain in this way. A coffee value chain is a system whose purpose, or the purpose of which, is to provide coffee that coffee drinkers are willing to buy and consume. Medyo obvious yung, di ba, yung description. Syempre, coffee value chain yan. Therefore, ganito yung ginagawa niya. But I want you to think about the term purpose and keep that in mind as we move on from our discussion natin. So sa actual discussion po, I want to talk about this. Ito yung talagang presentation ko ngayon. I want to be able to ask the question, what is of value and to whom? And then what I will be presenting is the human side of the coffee value chain. Hindi po masyadong napag-uusapan to. Ang napag-uusapan usually yung supply chain, yung paano ginagawa yung kape, na thankfully nagawa na ni Donnell. So I want to talk about ano ba yung mga pinagdadaanan ng mga actors mismo, ng mga tao mismo. Tapos later on, we will start asking the question, parang what does inclusion mean for value chains? And then, of course, where do we go from here? So, moving on. When we did our research, itong IBC Philippines, we actually came up with a methodology which we call Pangandoy method. Hopefully, I'll be able to show you a video later on towards the end of the presentation, and then papakita po namin ano yung mga actual sagot ng mga farmers na nakuha namin. Pero yung Pangandoy method kasi asks the following questions like, what are your aspirations? Ano ang pangandoy mo? Anong pangarap mo? What are the burdens you carry? Anong mga dinadala mo? Ano yung mga mabigat na laging dala-dala natin sa pang-araw-araw? And what are the coping strategies that make your burdens lighter? Ano yung mga nagpapagaan sa dala-dala mo? And these are not necessarily specific to coffee value chains. This is actually something we can ask of anyone. But we felt na it was important to ask these kasi para malaman namin ano yung pinagdadaanan at ano talaga yung gusto ng mga farmers natin. Tapos, ginawa rin po namin tinatawag naming farming systems analysis. Sa farming systems analysis po, gusto namin intindihin ano ba yung tingin ng mga farmers doon sa farm environment, sa system, sa agriculture system nila. It's from their perspective. Para maintindihan natin bakit nga ba sila nahihirapan sa mga farming or ano yung mga talagang tumutulong sa kanila pag ginagawa nila yung mga bagay na to. Now, tignan niyo po yung yung parang Venn diagram na to. Na sa isang household, ang household basically individuals natin sa loob ng bahay, di ba? Sa home. Pero ang coffee farming system is actually a household. It's a subset of a household na merong specific function, may specific purpose, which is to participate in the coffee farming, coffee value chain. So purposeful participation po yan. That's also important once we talk about yung ating discussions later sa inclusion. So again, the word purpose. So I want to show a video para mabilis lang po yung yung ating description kung ano yung ginawa namin with the farming systems analysis and the Pangandoy. And then ito po, para maintindihan niyo paano namin siya nagawa at ano yung mga nakita namin.
Pagkagising ang lahat iisipin kung saan may patanim, masarap ang pagkain.
Okay. So as you can see dun sa ating video, there's the three key resources: cash, time, and health. Normally, we only talk about cash, yung mga incomes, yung revenues generated from coffee. But in reality, pag tinanong natin yung mga farmers, actually, madalas lumalabas yung time at saka yung health. And later on, labas na pinaka-importante sa kanila actually is children's education. But anyway, getting ahead of myself, I just want to show, ito po yung isang activity na ginawa namin for farming systems analysis. And this is what we call transect walk. Basically, nilalakad natin ano yung mga areas na pinupuntahan ng farmers. So from the farm to the trading area, etc. And in this case, dun sa Barangay Hinalaan, Calamansig, if I remember right, ito yung Lower Surong. Ito po yung areas na madalas nilang na-encounter. Ito yung dinadaanan nila. Mga bridges na gawa sa troso. Yung iba medyo maayos pa. Yan, yung may konting patag pa. But they have to cross the river, for example, because yun yung talaga main thoroughfare nila doon sa area. Tapos, if we look at this, ito po, this is also a reality that we see. Mga coffee bean hauling. These are anywhere from 30 to 50 kilograms of beans being carried manually from the upper areas all the way to the highways. And yung mga ginagawa dito is mga 4 kilometers, can go as far as 4 kilometers, and as many as 3 to 4 times a day during the peak harvest periods. Ako, 50 kilogram sack, pagod na po ako, mga lalakad lang ako ng 10 meters. This is 4 kilometers on over broken terrain. Yan, yung mga boulders, etc. So, if we begin to see, ano ba yung talagang pinagdadaanan nila? Well, mahirap mag-improve ng productivity kung hindi natin naayusin yung mga bagay that will actually increase yung efficiencies dito. Now, for sure, the LGU is looking for ways to do that. Pero yun nga, the reality is this is still happening right now. Now, I also want to show you this picture na yung mga bridges po that you saw earlier, sa earlier pictures, are actually have been washed away. They've been destroyed by the recent habagat noong mid-July. So we were there when the habagat was happening. Buti hindi kami na-trap sa loob. But basically, when we saw it, the landscape in the area literally changed. As in talagang kinarve ng river, yung flash flood, yung lupain ng area. So ang nakikita niyo po dito is actually a new island na kinreate ng river. And in order to create a bridge, ang gumagawa po na nakita namin are children. And these are 8 to 12 years old, building a new bamboo bridge. They're just simply practicing what they call pintakasi, which is a community para practice for creating infrastructure to help these each member. Now, so that ito po yung mga no-witness natin dyan. And just to let you know, during that time, yung mga around 300 farming households were cut off kasi they've lost the bridges. In fact, we witnessed a family that had yung kumbaga the head of the family had to cross 9 times para lang maitawid niya yung asawa niya, yung anak niya, yung mga gamit nila across the same river. So hopefully naayos na to, but this is probably going to keep on happening as long as there's no proper infrastructure in place. And so you can probably try to imagine ano ba talaga yung inefficiencies na nakita natin sa chain. This is one of them. Now, one of the things na very curious about yung area ng Calamansig is that meron silang tinatawag na panahon ng crisis. And this shows kung gaano ka-importante ang coffee value chain sa area. So actually, siya ang nadidikta kung ano ang buong socio-economic life sa area. Siya lang ang may pera actually in terms of yung for most of the residents. So ang pera gumagalaw lang po talaga during the harvest season. That's the only time that they earn, and that's also the time when they're able to actually purchase yung mga kailangan nila. So one evidence pa nga dito, for example, is that yung pagbili po ng mga fresh meat at saka ng manok nangyayari lang sa harvest season. So if you're let's say if you wanted to diversify yung investments mo sa area, kung gusto mo magtayo ng mag-raise ng mga baboy o kaya mag-alaga ng mga manok, it only makes sense na ibenta yung mga karne during the harvest season. The rest of the time, and usually that's anywhere from February to August, there is no money moving around. And the only source of money typically happens to be through the traders. Dito po pumapasok yung loans. So, which we'll be talking about in a bit later. Now, so when it comes to aspirations, ano ba yung mga pangarap nila, mga pangandoy nila? Ito po laging lumalabas. Na for their children to be educated. And sabi nga ng parang yung lumabas nga dun sa video kanina sa Nestlé, mga professional work, usually nurse, police, kaya criminology, tapos IT, etc. Nothing to do with the farm. And another aspiration that they have is for their families to be healthy. And the reality is a lot of them are not. are not healthy. They're not able to gain the proper nutrition kasi. And syempre yung risks dun sa area with yung mga sloping areas, mga 33-degree slopes. Mahirap na hiking po yun. Napakahirap pong hiking. So, yan po yung mga nakikita natin. So, and the issue of time actually is very real. And I would like to read this translated quote na po from one of the farmers from SK. I leave home by morning and I'll be back at night already. That is my daily routine as a farmer. My bond with my family has changed. Due to the time demand as a farmer, I have difficulties fulfilling my spiritual aspect. I am no longer able to even attend Sunday prayers because I need to visit my farm every day. Typically, when we talk about coffee farming levels of effort, dun sa roadmaps natin, we will see na lalabas para mga 50 man days per year per hectare ang ginagawa sa coffee farms. But that level of effort, yung 50 man days na yun, is really just taking into consideration yung productive activities like yung kunyari time na magki-clearing, maglalagay ng fertilizer, maglalagay ng herbicides, pesticides, harvesting, etc. It does not take into consideration the day-to-day maintenance that happens. Sa mga farms po, pag nagkaroon ng test tapos naiiwan nyo pong hindi nyo na-address yun, within a matter of days, malaking harvest, marami sa mga puno or sa mga fruits affected na kagad. So they really have to visit their farms every day. Now, it also takes, if you see the hiking distance na ginagawa kanina for the harvest, ganoon din yung pagpunta sa farms nila on a daily basis. So mga 1 hour to 2 hours worth of traveling to, and then 1 and 2 hours going back. So malaking effort din po talaga. So again, yung cash and time and health implications. So ang mga nakita po namin, best performance recorded sa study namin, kasi usually they have 2.3 hectares, is earning 69,000 pesos or an equivalent of 5,750 per month. And that's supporting a household of 5. Kasama na po dyan yung nagpapaaral ng anak and any kind of emergencies. So kaya yung decision po talaga, parang bakit hindi ba sila naglalagay ng fertilizers or bakit hindi sila naglalagay ng tamang inputs in the area, simply because they'd rather put their money into education or to deal with yung mga emergencies rather than have to put that into farm inputs. So meron po talaga mismatch sa work-life balance. So in fact, many of our typical interventions usually consist of additional burdens sa kanila. Parang yung pag-attend ng training. Pag nag-attend po sila ng training, gumagastos po yan ng transpo. Tapos kailangan nila mag-hire ng labor. Or parang pipilitin nila yung mga kasama nila sa bahay to actually do the farm labor. But this is also the reason why eventually you'll notice na marami pong umattend sa trainings natin, yung mga kababaihan po, yung mga asawa po na gumagawa lang domestic work. Kasi hindi po pupunta yung farmer dun sa trainings. And therefore, yan, magkakaroon na tayo ng para transfer errors, etc. Which probably, all these lead to underperforming coffee farms. Tapos siyempre, pag ang farmer po nagkasakit mismo, ano po yan? Hindi po yan makaka-perform talaga. Pag yung mga kasambahay nila, mga kasama nila sa bahay ay may sakit, sila rin yung mag-aalaga nun. So health is also a concern talaga for them. Now, as it turns out, the biggest, one of the coping strategies mentioned by the farmers in Sultan Kudarat at least, or in Calamansig, was the presence of traders. kasi sila yung nagbibigay ng means to be able to bridge yung mga expenses na to. So lahat po ng mga pangangailangan, pag panahon na po ng tuition, ang by law, libre po ang college tuition, ang mga public school education, etc. But we have to consider the fact na meron ka pa rin materials, meron ka pa rin miscellaneous fees, yung mga laboratory fees. And typically, you'll still spend 10,000 pesos per semester to be able to fund yung tuition ng isang college student kung may pinaparal kang sa kolehiyo. So malaking bagay pa rin po laban sa 5,750 pesos per month. So they still rely on the traders. So far from the rhetoric na usually sinasabi natin, we need to reduce the traders. Farmers actually did ask to increase their number kasi they need more sources of such funds. So now, sige, tignan naman natin itong mga traders. Sino ba sila? Now, traders are business people. I think that's very clear. And just like any businesses, any enterprise, they use their assets, cash and equipment to earn money. They want to maximize yung kanilang margins. Siyempre, they buy low and then sell high. Ganun naman po ang negosyo as much as you can. Now, of course, we want to make sure that this is done fairly, but that's still the reality. It's still a buy low and sell high. Now, they need to keep their cash and equipment moving. So mag-aanap po ng paraan yan na kailangan na hindi dapat di nakatenga yung kanilang mga gamit, yung mga tao. So efficiency is key to their business, and these are to be expected. Now, ito po yung mga nakuha namin from discussing with traders naman. Prior to COVID-19, estimated 90% of the total volume of Robusta coffee beans from Calamansig, and maybe even for Sultan Kudarat, was actually going to Nestlé. And then we also noticed that there was actually a very strong influence by Nestlé to the coffee trade. Kumbaga, merong nga time na ang kwento daw is ang traders were selling, yung traders na nagbebenta kay Nestlé had a margin of as much as 20 pesos per kilogram. Pero ninegotiate ni Nestlé na babaan nyo naman yung yung cut nyo from 5 to 10 pesos just so that ma-increase din yung margin for the farmers. These traders naman did comply. So napapakiusapan naman sila. But a major complaint by the traders is that pag nag-deliver na sila dun sa mga buying stations for coffee, they have to wait. And usually it takes them 5 to 7 days na naka-line up yung kanilang truck, nandun lang sa highway, naghihintay ng kanilang time in turn nila para kunin ng buying station yung kanilang kape. And sometimes this will actually move up to a month long. So those are assets, those are people not doing anything. Nandun lang sila. Siyempre yung papakainin mo na bibigyan mo ng accommodations, bibigyan mo ng meals, expenses, etc. Through all these days na nakatenga yung truck mo sa area. Now, okay. So, tapos during the actual pandemic, and maybe Donald can correct this if this is actually wrong, but this is what was told to us. During the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a temporary shutdown in coffee procurement by Nestlé. Siyempre, again, may kape, kailangan galawin, kailangan gumalaw. So the traders looked for alternative markets, and they found them in Cotabato, yung mga neighboring provinces like Cotabato, Maguindanao. And this is actually what they usually refer to them as yung mga bukbukan, of basically grinders and roasters. To as far as Bukidnon and even in Bacolod City. So it's very interesting na Bacolod City is actually a major hub for coffee. And lit lang naman ng Bacolod. So paano nangyari yun? We do not know yet, but that was the information we got. Now, so if we make a comparison, this is how it looks. So parang how much? Nestlé uses usually a competitive world market price. So yung ano ba yung prevailing global price plus a premium. So mas mataas siya than yung world market price. And the way that's how we understand it. Pero the alternative markets actually use Nestle prices and then add 20 pesos. So so for some reason they're actually able to pay that much higher. Now the terms in terms of timing, prices for Nestle would change every 2 weeks. Dun sa alternative markets, the prices tend to be locked in. So as long as you're able to talk with yung mga buyers na to from Cotabato, Maguindanao, or even Bukidnon and Bacolod City, bago ka pa mag-deliver, nakapag-agree na kayo sa presyo. Kung ano man yung ano. So medyo kampante ka na. Kasi especially kung nakatenga ka ng 1 month, you're not even sure what happens to the price. It could go higher, so you'd be happy, or it could go lower. Then you'll be sad. Now, in terms of quality, of course, Nestle will always demand quality for their products. In which case, pag nagkaroon ng mga discrepancies sa quality, may mga discounts yan. And according to them, it's around 7 pesos. Discount yung parang bababa nila yung presyo by 7 pesos or even a total rejection. For some reason, the alternative markets are happy to take almost anything. So pakyaw yan, whether medyo madami-daming black beans yan or hindi siya completely dried, kukunin nila yung bulk. Of course, within reason. Hindi naman sila yung mag-abuse dun sa quality. Pero kumbaga, mas lenient sila overall. In terms of logistics, Nestle does not pay for logistics expenses. It's really just based on the competitive world market price. But for the alternative markets, they do. Depending on the negotiation. Lalo na kung talagang kilala ka na. And walang waiting time. One of the questions that actually came up is, we actually found out na, well, this only seems to be applicable to the Philippines. We don't know why. Apparently, negotiable yung mga prices sa Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam. Pero sa Pilipinas, talagang competitive world market price lang. We don't know, but we'll just leave it there. Right? So, ito yung insights natin na nakuha namin from the discussions with the traders. Na there's probably a market segment out there that we don't know. If you notice, and I noticed this from yung even from yung welcoming remarks ni Ma'am Juliet Lucas, is that the push is moving towards specialty and premium coffee. But there seems to be a market segment, and they seem to be quite sizable, na hindi masyado yun yung hinahanap nila. Hindi yun yung mahalaga sa kanila. In fact, when we talk to yung DA offices ng Region 12, they were talking about this segment that says, na parang yung description nila is, naliligo sila sa kape. Sa dami ng kape na iniinom nila, sa dami ng kape na binibili nila. And this is associated with yung areas ng, yung Piquet Cotabato, Maguindanao, and maybe even Bacolod. So it's really interesting. And one of the top coffee companies identified is actually this enterprise called Pomogon Coffee. Parang siya yung leader sa Mindanao coffee actually. So it's worth a study. We weren't able to study that very thoroughly. Pero yung mukhang ito po yung pwede namin iwan for those who are interested to do research as well. Now, access to these alternative markets are influenced by traders' ethnicity and social-cultural heritage. So, syempre, yung mga Ilonggo na marami din sa Sultan Kudarat actually interfaced with yung mga Ilonggos in Iloilo and specifically in Bacolod City. And Muslim traders within Lebak and Calamansig, Sultan Kudarat actually went to Piquet, Cotabato, and Maguindanao, and etc. So mukhang ito po yung parang ano ba tayo? Pareho ba tayo ng probinsya? May mga common denominators ba tayo? And that actually makes it easy for trade to happen. So, what does this mean for inclusion? When we started kasi yung aming discussion for IVC, unang debate namin is ano ba talaga ang gusto nating tignan. And but what was clear to us is yung participation to the value chain is necessary, sure, but it's not sufficient to say na this thing is inclusive. This is partly a critique of an older term called inclusive business. Na parang sinasabi nila, basta kasama ka sa value chain ko, okay ka na. Included ka na. That is a belongingness argument. Hindi naman sinasabing mali yun or masama yun, pero sinasabi namin hindi siya enough. Dapat meron pa. Kasi some people are actually able to participate without necessarily benefiting from that kind of participation. So, we started opening up yung aming discussion. When we say inclusion, usually it will have to talk about at least these 4 things. Agency, voice, identity, and entitlement. Agency means being able to decide on one's own actions. Voice means being able to speak one's truth or being able to express one's own opinion. Identity, determine who one is. And yung entitlement is getting what is appropriate. So, pag nilatag natin to sa isang, parang sabihin natin mapa, you can probably imagine, I want you to imagine an area where parang itong mga practices na to, parang hindi siya masyadong inclusive. Whereas, and that's usually to the right side of the screen. And then there's actually a point where, yes, it's probably very inclusive, but it's no longer efficient for the purposes of value chains. Kumbaga, it's moving out of the value chains na. And when we put it like, when we start putting in yung mga information na pinag-usapan kanina, ito yung mga lumalabas na, so, for agency, kung masyadong dinidiktahan yung mga farmers, mga traders, or any actor, include, sama mo na si Nestlé, then mukhang hindi yun yung gusto natin pag-usapan in terms of inclusion. But there's actually a point where they're so empowered or they're so independent na that they're no longer participating in the coffee value chain. So of course, nilatag natin yung mga must-follow farming protocols, mga farming protocols like good agricultural practices. It's actually towards the right kasi you're actually asked to follow something. Whereas when you're looking for alternative markets, decide to sell to another coffee buyer, be more entrepreneurial, that's actually towards the left. Sa voice, so pag sinabi natin censored, usually wala kang say. Parang ano ka lang, nakikinig ka lang. And then, so much of the parang closer to the right will be instructed to change practices. So meron kang instruction, tapos gawin mo. Pero on the left side, now you have when your voice is higher, now you're beginning to be given the opportunity to negotiate more about various things. In this case, baka yung logistics expenses, for example. Pagdating naman sa identity, so when you start thinking about product differentiation, it's towards the left. Kunyari yung mga, ayoko magbenta lang ng green coffee beans, gusto ko magbenta ng mga durian flavored coffee, gusto ko magbenta ng may halong something, etc. Product differentiation, nasa left side po yan. Now, maybe towards the middle is yung acknowledgement na meron din namang roles na ginagawa yung ibang tao. Hindi lang naman farmer si farmer, marami din pong mga roles yan. Like, kailangan nyo din maging magulang, kailangan nyo din maging part ng community, etc. But if they have to completely conform with the cultural practices, then that's more towards the right. And then, entitlement. So in this case, ito yung parang ano ba yung dapat nakukuha ng mga tao. So sa entitlement, galawin ko lang yung ano, okay. So yung usual treatment kasi is the one size fits all. And usually it's very convenient. Parang wala na ako, hindi na natin pag-uusapan kung ano pa yung profile mo, basta kung anong yung pare-pareho lang kayo na makukuha. Everyone gets the same thing. And if we push it to the leftmost, dito nagiging mas package deal or mas ina-adjust yung mga benefits kumbaga or mas syempre mas kailangan i-consider yung profiles ng mga tao. I want to point out the idea of the basic needs, safeties, and securities. And this is where universal human rights will come in. Mukhang this is where everyone is equal talaga no matter what we do. That's a legal thing all over the world. But there are certain things that need to be adjusted. Like what if meron kang cultural practices na kailangan sundin? So, or what if yung context mo is different? Siyempre dapat magkakaroon ng changes in the packaging of your interventions, for example. So this is just a quick discussion. I don't want to dwell too much into this, more than I've already done. But I want to show and say na kaya mahirap yung inclusion kasi it is actually quite paradoxical. Na it can be a lot of things. And speak of very things na parang yung oppositional to each other. Pero it's still about inclusion. Kasi it's a very fuzzy concept. And we just have to accept it that way. Na, well, ganun talaga si inclusion eh. So parang lumalabas nga na the highest levels of inclusion is actually a situation kung saan yung mga tao are able to voluntarily self-exclude themselves. Yung pwede nilang gawin kung ano yung gusto nila. Which seems to say na, teka, so to be inclusive is to be exclusive? Medyo nagiging complicated yung discussion. But yun nga, that is where the discussions about inclusion and even exclusion starts to come in. It's no longer inclusion is always good, exclusion is always bad. Now, parang lumalabas na actually mukhang kailangan natin talagang timplahin ano ba talaga yung nangyayari sa konteksto ng mga tinutulungan natin. So, for example, yung mga usaping empowerment, entrepreneurship, ay actually nasa left side. So pag sinabi mong yung program namin wants to enhance entrepreneurship, that means you want to enhance product differentiation, cost leadership, you want to be able to parang show yung ability mo to take risks, etc. Nasa left side yun actually. And empowerment actually is talaga parang you can actually do whatever you want. Pero when we talk about protocols, consolidation, clustering, and all these things, this actually probably goes towards the right. So hindi sila always aligned with each other. And trying to make sure that parang trying to be able to articulate these differences might actually show what's really important to your program. So kaya babalik tayo sa question, what is of value and to whom? Okay. So, and one way to look at paano ba tong yung sinasabi mo, Anton, na parang gulo-gulo na. Pwede natin kasi sabihin na yung goal, for example, ng isang household ay hindi necessarily aligned o congruent dun sa purposes ng coffee farming system. So, sabi nga natin kanina, ang aspiration ng mga coffee farmers ay para yung mga anak nila maging professional, which is actually not congruent to the coffee farming system. That means na pag natulungan sila, na napag-graduate na nila yung mga anak nila, ay mukhang ang expectation ay bababa pa nga actually yung industry rather than improve. So that now parang has implications and challenges to the sustainability and the resiliency of the system. So what that simply means is that a person advocating for the coffee industry, its development, its enhancement, should then begin to see that as low-income coffee farmers do increase their incomes, the possibility of them getting out of coffee farming increases as well. That is the long-term systems view of the implications of all this. And we actually see that a lot. Nakikita natin sa kape, nakita po natin yan sa cacao, etc. Naglalagay tayo ng mga programs, tapos matutulungan yung mga households na tinulungan natin, and then in a few years, wala na sila sa value chain na tinutulungan natin, na supposedly tinutulungan natin. Naging ano na sila, naging IT professionals na sila, naging nurses na, naging engineers na, etc. So there must be another strategy to also take that into consideration. So all this seems to suggest, di ba sabi ko nga, we'll look into the human side of things. Lumalabas kasi that when we talk about the coffee industry, we rarely talk about the human side. We talk about the farm and the farm practice and the technologies needed to support the farm, but we rarely talk about the human, the farmer. We rarely talk about the trader. And the key resources that actually affect their daily needs. Yan, cash, time, and health. So now, but one thing is very critical and very clear dito sa nakikita namin sa Sultan Kudarat at sa Calamansig in particular, ay meron pa rin hindi in place na bagay that should be in place for everywhere. And that's the basic needs, safeties, and securities. These are the universal human rights. For sure, in the area sa Calamansig, yung incidences of insurgencies have already gone. Na nagkaroon na ng peaceful reconciliation between yung mga dating insurgents doon with the military, at yun, talagang maayos naman yung mga usapan nila. Pero things like education, things like health still remain to be a problem. Yung nga, mga flash floods, mga landslides, these are frequent occurrences sa area, and it's very unfortunate. Pero yun nga, so hopefully there's a way to actually bring in the basic needs, safeties, and securities. So where do we go from here? Unfortunately, kung naghahanap po kayo ng isang programa that will solve everything, wala pong ganun. Walang silver bullet. Ang talagang kailangan gawin dito is talagang constant monitoring, constant look, and see ano yung kailangan tignan. So very important po yung idea na tinatawag namin trade-offs. Pag nag-pursue ka ng isang way, kunyari entrepreneurship, then it might actually lead to them getting out of coffee. But if you want to make them stay in coffee, that means parang you need to implement strict regulations and protocols. Parang medyo medyo imposing naman on the communities. So, but yun nga, those are the realities. You have to adjust. Ano ba talaga yung importante at the moment for your program and for the beneficiaries you serve. So that means now that we need to begin to rethink yung ating traditional monitoring and evaluation and learning practices. Hindi na siya pwedeng linear siguro. That also means na hindi na tayo laging quantitative. Hindi na siya socio-economic lang. It's now going to take into consideration yung kanyang mga qualitative means. We need to understand the stories, the narratives of these people, these communities. And then again, live with the idea that there is no silver bullet. Vigilant management is important. Talagang balancing. So parang yung picture po dito na tightrope walker, binabalance niya yung sarili niya. Ganon din po yung ating kailangan gawin. Babalansin natin whether we move it to the right or to the left. Now, I would like to end this presentation with this quote from Michael Sandel. And he says na Michael Sandel is a Harvard professor, a political philosophy professor doon. He wrote a book on justice. And he says na justice is not only about the right way to distribute things. It is also about the right way to value things. Now, for the actual end of my presentation, I would like to show you a video. Medyo pa-sentiment lang po para makita niyo po ano yung mga sinasabi ng mga farmers namin, both from Cebu and Sultan Kudarat. Ito po.
Kung ang buhay ay isang umagang nakangiti at ikaw ay ang lupang sinusuyo ng bituin, di mo man siling ang langit, di mo man siling, ito ay nandirito pa rin. Kung ang lahat ay may katapusan, itong paglalakbay ay makakarating din sa paroroonan. At sa iyong paglisan, ang tanging pabaon ko ay pag-ibig. Sa pagbuhos ng ulan, sa haplos ng hangin, alaala mo ay nakauki sa pisngi ng langit. Di man umihip ang hangin, di man umihip, ika'y nandirito pa rin. Kung ang lahat ay may katapusan, itong paglalakbay ay makakarating din sa paroroonan. At sa iyong paglisan, ang tanging pabaon ko ay pag-ibig.
Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Sir Donel and Sir Anton, for your valuable insights today. Hindi lang siya valuable, pero alam mo yung may puso. You know, your last presentation, Sir Anton, and of course, Sir Donel, parang yung akong dinala doon sa community mismo today. As in now, parang nakita ko yung community at nakikipag-usap ako ng actual. So, yun talaga yung realidad. So, maraming salamat for that. Ano po? And now, because of your presentations, we were able to gain insights on the current state of our coffee sector and understand the next steps and opportunities we can take to help build a more sustainable and inclusive coffee sector in the Philippines. Talagang napakahalaga ng kape sa ating mga Pilipino. Alam nating lahat yan. So umaga pa lang, lalo na at parte yan ng ating mga pang-araw-araw na buhay, lalong-lalo na sa mga magsasaka. Umaga pa lang kahit kape, hindi yan pupunta ng bukid kung walang kape. At katunayan, marami tayong klase ng kape hanggang sa corn, bukod sa totoong kape ha, meron tayong corn coffee at meron tayong sinangag na alam mo yung bigas yung tinutong, it's coffee also. So ayun. At syempre hindi kumpleto ang ating usapan without the Q&A portion no with our speakers today. So to moderate our open forum, we will call on PPSA intern walang iba kundi si Lorraine Sumailo. So wag na natin patagalin kasi tayo ay nasa dulo na ng ating session. Lorraine, it's your turn.
Thank you po, Sir Rai. So, good morning po sa lahat. We're now ready to take your questions for our speakers, Sir Donel and Sir Anton. So, we're open for questions. You can send your questions through our Zoom chat or comment on our Facebook live stream. Please keep your questions concise and to the point. Also, please indicate whether your question is intended for Sir Donel, Sir Anton, or both. If time doesn't permit us to address all questions during the live session, our speakers will do their best to answer any remaining questions in the Zoom chat box. So while we wait po for your questions, isend nyo lang ngayon sa ating Zoom or sa ating Facebook. Mayroon po tayong isang tanong kanina mula sa chat box from Sir Romel Tejano. Sabi niya po, hello Sir Donel, ask ko lang po, gaano po kayo ka-support sa Phil Cafe? So this question po is for Sir Donel. Sir Donel, you may take the floor.
Thank you for that question po. Yung Phil Cafe, I think ended na yung program. It's a program of ACBI VOCA. So before, when I was with World Coffee Research, nag-partner po kami with Phil Cafe Project. So we're doing research, international multi-location variety trials to help address yung varietal concerns nung Arabica coffee kasi walang masyadong varieties ng Arabica in the Philippines na registered in the Department of Agriculture Brewer Plant Industry. So we help bring high-performing varieties from other countries to the Philippines in partnership with DA. So we've established varietal trials, and hopefully kasi yung ang taker nun is the DA. So currently ongoing pa yung varietal trial, and then hopefully kung may mga performing varieties that will be registered ng DA then to make it accessible for coffee farmers. But for Nestlé, during the last phase of Phil Cafe project, I've been able to participate in their activities. Pero ibang doon na yun sa later part ng project, but it already ended yung Phil Cafe.
Maraming salamat po, Sir Donel. Sana po nasagot yung tanong ni Sir Romel. Okay, so proceeding to the next question po from Sir Emil Capsula. In regards to adaptive and resilient response to climate change, what are the significant part of programs integrated and supported by the company to the farmers? So this isn't addressed to anyone po. So I guess Sir Donel and Sir Anton can answer.
For Nestlé, we have currently we are launching the Project Coffee Plus Plus. This is in partnership with GIZ. So yung objectives nito is that aside from increasing farmer sales and income through the training on agripreneurship, our goal is to enhance climate resilience and also promote regenerative agriculture So we are done with the materials. So meron na po kaming mga training manuals and farmers workbook. And actually this month we have started the training of 3,000 farmers on regenerative agriculture. So we can share po our material. I'll just ask permission from GIZ kasi usually yung dating material ng Project Coffee Plus we're able to share with interested stakeholders. So for sure for the second phase, which includes the regenerative agriculture initiative, we can also share our materials if you're outside SK and Bukidnon po.
Sige po. Wala po kaming resources tulad na Nestlé. But we definitely, ang resources namin are very much into information. So to answer, maybe to answer the question, we can probably talk about what we found out about itong mga climate change scenarios and weather situations and in relation to yung mga pinag-uusapan nga namin, cash time and health. Now, when we were looking at yung mga coffee drying practices in Sultan Kudarat, it was very clear to us na may problem yung drying practices doon. Karamihan po ng drying doon ay ginagawa sa trapal, sa ibabaw ng usually muddy area, wala namang masyadong lupa, roads kasi doon, nasa highway lang ang semento doon. Some areas will have yung para mga basketball courts na dryer types, and but that's not enough to actually cater to the yung voluminous number of people who are actually there. So from our understanding kasi, what happens is that the drying time for yung using yung trapal lang actually takes up to 30 days. So it's very long, and nangyayari po dyan, ang kape kasi parang sponge po yan. Pag natutuyo yan, mas mabilis siyang mag-absorb ng tubig. So pag nabasa yan or medyo humid yung hangin, it nagre-reabsorb siya kaagad ng moisture. And that's the reason kung bakit ang daming mga black beans na lumalabas. So it's not just about long times of drying, but it's also about a reduction in quality. Ngayon, pag ginawa mo yan, i-reject ni Donnell yan. Ayaw na yung black beans. Now, so this is where parang lumalabas na parang mukhang it's the drying that needs to be solved, because it solves a lot of things. One, if your dryer works well, you might be able to reduce yung 30 days drying time to even to 7 days. And then you might even be able to achieve yung quality standards na 12% moisture content na hinahanap nga ng karamihan ng mga kumpanya, kasama na si Nestlé doon. Tama, Donel? So doon pa lang, parang okay, mukhang dryer lang, marami na tayo masasolve. Ganun po namin siya tinitignan. Na tignan natin yung paraan on how to reduce the time, yung effort that's actually needed to produce, and then to produce quality coffee. And very quickly and very simply, it's actually probably a good set of solar dryers that will actually help. Yun po. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much po, Sir Donal and Sir Anton, for your answers. So, since medyo kapit po tayo sa oras, we will be able to accommodate 3 or 4 more questions. The rest po, don't worry po, the rest of the questions are noted, and we will be sending the questions to the speakers, and they will try their best to answer via text or chat. Okay, for the next question po, from Sir Benjilan Cabusas, what role does technology play in promoting sustainable coffee farming practices? Any speaker can answer din po.
Go, Donnell.
Sorry, what's the question?
Okay, the question po again is, what role does technology play in promoting sustainable coffee farming practices?
Yeah, actually the technology that we're teaching them are not new. Kasi we're for regenerative agriculture, we're going back to the basic. So we want to restore soil health through practices that actually our farmers are already doing in the past. So we just need, actually, yung mga recent technology pa can damage our farms kasi with the application of inorganic fertilizer and all of those technologies. But um, ang pinaka-ano talaga natin is ibalik yung health ng soil kasi in the past our technology is based on the objective on increasing yield to attain food security to feed the growing population. So very intensive yung technology, very intensive yung fertilization, even yung mga companies before, ang daming fertilizers na pinoproduce, and those chemical fertilizers has an impact talaga on the production and making the soil depleted and now becomes acidic. So what we are trying to promote now is to make it sustainable is we go back to the basic, like we use organic fertilizer, compost, but regenerative agriculture is not organic agriculture. We just want to encourage farmers to do soil testing, soil analysis para malaman talaga natin kung ano yung need ng soil, because what farmers are doing now is they are just basing it with their traditional practices na kung ilang ang dami-daming urea ang nilalagay or other fertilizer pero hindi naman pala yun ang kailangan ng tanim. So we just need to be precise when it comes to fertilization. Kaya we really encourage yung mga farmers to check the status of their soil through soil analysis. So actually we cannot do this alone. So we are really partnering with the government, NGOs, and other like-minded stakeholders para po ma-address natin itong mga concerns na to. So ang laki po ng contribution ng technology, right technology to make our coffee farming sustainable. And aside from composting, we also promote agroforestry. These technologies are not new. We also promote intercropping, planting vegetables in between coffee plants, yung mga mulching at saka cover cropping. So all of these are processes na we can help promote soil health, sustainability, to ensure that there's still coffee in the future. Kasi anuhin natin gusto nating maranasan din yung ng future generation na may kape pa silang maiinom. Kung wala nang healthy soil, wala nang tutubuan ng kape in the future, wala na rin kapeng may experience ng ating susunod na generation.
Sige. If I remember right, yung question then has something to do with coffee trade, right? So indirectly, kasi we were also implementing the project in Cebu City. We were able to work with PLDT and Smart and Agriculture Training Institute in the implementation of their digital farming program. And that actually helped the Cebu farmers, yung vegetable farmers, begin to try out yung mga smart technologies to help them with the marketing of their produce. So maganda yung training. And thankfully sa Cebu City, kahit sa Hillylands, meron namang cell signal access. So walang problem doon. Well, actually meron, pero not as bad as Sultan Kudarat, or in this case, Calamansig. Sa Barangay Hinilaan, Calamansig po, meron pong tulay doon. Pag tawid nyo ng tulay, blackout na agad in terms of cell signal. Walang cell signal at all. So, ito nga po yung nung kinukwento po namin kay Mayor Concha yung idea ng digital farming program. Sabi niya, maganda yan. Sa Cebu City. Pero dito siguro sa area ko, parang hindi yata masyado. Kasi wala talagang cell signal doon. Walang internet doon. Siguro may piece of Wi-Fi in certain areas. The only way it can work is siguro with the application of or the use of the Starlink. And it will definitely work there kasi mataas naman yung lugar, clear naman yung skies. But the reality is it's still expensive. So we know that the opportunities for yung mga digital technologies are there, but the actual implementation becomes more complicated when we're not talking to a very remote area such as Calamansi. So thank you.
Thank you so much, po, for your answers. Let's have two more questions. From Sir John Isael Magatan. How how do coffee farmers adopt sustainable practices to improve the quality and marketability of their coffee? Again, po, this isn't addressed to anyone, so any of our speakers are free to answer.
Mhm. For our farmers naman po, so what I've mentioned earlier, we have this Project Coffee Plus. So we started with 1,500 farmers. And these farmers already adopt technologies or the good agricultural practices that we teach them for them to increase their yield and income. And from the baseline of 258 kilos per hectare, yun yung baseline yield. They were able to, the average yield of these participating farmers have increased to almost 800 kilos per hectare. So this only shows that if they adopt, kulang pa nga to kasi majority of our farmers don't have the capacity to really provide fertilizers, and even yung may issues din sila on the labor kasi when they apply this GAP or good agricultural practices, they really need capital. So majority or some of the participating farmers have been able to have been to invest in the technology that we teach them. And this only proves na kung mag-apply si farmer ng mga good agricultural practices and also other technologies that we teach them, it will surely increase their yield and income. So kaya ina-encourage namin yung farmers to invest, and we also link them with financing institutions like the Land Bank of the Philippines, ACPC, ASEF program. So though hindi namin kaya lahat ma-assist, but we're trying our best to link our farmers. Yun na nga sabi ni Anton, diba kanina, may problema din doon talaga sa mga traders. So actually we have this project wherein we encourage our farmers to become to form associations and cooperatives, and we link also these cooperatives sana we also working with AMAS, yung sa marketing ng Department of Agriculture, if they can provide tool for logistics like trucks para matulungan, para hindi na sila pupunta sa mga other traders or suppliers na medyo hindi ganun ka-fair yung prices, they will directly sell their beans to Nestlé. So actually po, may mga cooperatives na nag-start in SK na nag-deliver na directly to Nestlé. So yun yung mga ginagawa namin for farmers.
Sige. I will second po yung sinasabi ni Donel na talagang kailangan ng capital. Hindi po mura ang pag-implement ng sustainable agriculture or even regenerative agriculture. It really does require a lot of investment and time. Again, mga 3 to 5 years yung aming nakuha for it to be implemented correctly. That's 3 to 5 years that you're not earning anything. That's probably almost impossible for many of the farmers that we've talked to. So while that needs to be cracked, and usually that simply means na mukhang kailangan nga talaga ng financing somewhere there, package, etc. Maybe what I would like to say is a little bit more tactical on the ground. Having yung mga kwentuhan sa mga farmers, mga chismisan namin, meron kasi silang sinasabi na kung gusto nyong turuan yung mga farmers ng isang bagay, yung mga training na ganyan, ang gusto nilang kausapin or kumakausap sa kanila ay isang tao na merong farm din. Kailangan ipakita ng tao na yun na meron siyang track record sa farming at ginawa niya yung sinasabing, yung pinag-uusapan niyang ginawa niya. That's the only time na makikinig sila sa inyo. So so none of the advanced degrees, masters, PhD matter to them. It's experience, it's wisdom that actually matters to these farmers. So ayun po, kailangan yung humanap ng model farmer na talagang may alam at merong farm at po siya ang magsasalita sa kanila para i-promote yung inyong sustainable at regenerative agriculture. Yun po.
Agree with you, Anton. Actually, now we have identified coffee ambassadors. Kasi yung mga farmers, to see is to believe sila. And then yung mga coffee ambassadors natin, there are people who are farming talaga, do coffee farming, and also they have influence in the community. So yun talaga yung strategy natin is to hone these coffee ambassadors and be models in their communities para mas mabilis yung adoption ng good agricultural practices.
Okay, thank you so much po, Sir Anton and Sir Donal. So for our last question, again po, we apologize for not being able to address the rest of the questions from our chat box. We took note of them and we will forward them to our speakers so they can answer them later on. So for our last question, it is from Sir John Israel Magadan. Sorry po, that question has already been answered. Okay. So from Sir Damuel Dedal, what are the latest market trends in the global coffee industry, and how can Filipino coffee producers tap into these opportunities?
Yeah. The latest trend kasi now, based on the World Coffee Research Report, yung production talaga is declining because of the impact of climate change. In fact, our number one coffee exporter, which is Vietnam and Brazil, are now suffering from the impacts of this climate change. If I'm not mistaken, in Vietnam, parang 7% yung decline ng production. So that serves as a threat, not only for Philippines, but for the entire coffee consumers in the world. Kasi ayaw talaga nating dumating yung time na wala nang coffee, especially for Philippines. We're very dependent on importation. Like 85% of coffee, we are really importing. So what we want to do now is to really increase our self-sufficiency through expansion and also increase our productivity, but without compromising soil health and biodiversity. Kasi kailangan din talaga natin talagang i-secure sa nangyayari ngayon because of the climate change impact. Kailangan nating wag dumating yung point na yung mga soil natin is depleted, yung mga greenhouse gas emissions natin, we need to reduce and make our coffee growing communities resilient, but not only coffee but the entire agriculture industry. So yun yung trend ngayon. Our trend now is going back to the basic. A lot of countries now are promoting regenerative agriculture initiatives. And the primary goal is to reduce greenhouse gas kasi yun talaga yung nagdahilan kung bakit umiinit ang mundo. So actually, there are a lot of technologies, there are a lot of initiatives na ginagawa ngayon. Though yung Philippines hindi pa ganun ka-receptive, maybe because we don't have yet enough resources to invest in these technologies. But we have started already, so we are now on our journey towards regeneration, and I hope na it takes the community talaga to adapt or to make our goals possible na maging resilient na ang ating coffee industry dito sa Pilipinas and maging self-sufficient na tayo. So sana sa lecture natin ngayon, we're able to realize the importance of soil health, the importance of this regenerative agriculture practices, sustainable practices to ensure na meron pa rin tayong kapeng maiinom in the future. Kasi wala na tayong International Coffee Day kung wala ng kape, diba? So, kailangan lang talaga natin ng doubling effort pa and also encourage all our farmers to adopt these practices.
Kaya nga po, sabi nga ni Donel, bumababa talaga ang productivities ng kape all over the place. Kaya po ang kape ngayon magandang presyo
Taas sa
para sa
presyo.
mga farmers. So tuwan-tuwa
Yeah.
sila. So yun, lagi naman ganun, supply and demand, influencing the price, di ba? Now, I will not be able to give a very definitive outlook on the global trade, pero there are certain news that we find, I suppose, interesting, slightly disturbing, na might actually feed into the information as to the global trade. So for example, um, sa Australia, meron din pong mga coffee farmers doon. In fact, ang coffee farming sa Australia, one household will cover anywhere from 4,000 to 10,000 hectares. Fully mechanized na po yung kanilang mga farming doon. And yet, despite all these technologies and kanilang capabilities, they are also closing down. So merong nangyayari, and obviously everyone's talking about climate change, but there are certain things that are probably also happening in all over the place. So for that kind of, parang pag maliit kang farmer, smallholder farmer, problemado ka. Pag malaki ka ng farmer, problemado ka pa rin. So what's going on? Meron talagang issue. Now, so that's the news, the disturbing news we're getting from Australia. There's another sort of disturbing news receiving from Vietnam. Sa Vietnam naman po, so very popular ang kanilang kape, not just for yung Robusta, but also for yung Arabica sila. The coffee trade is being affected by two things. One, the European market has really intensified or even increased yung kanilang mga requirements. Yan, yung mga parang kailangan walang deforestation na nangyari within 20 years bago nila isource, etc. Which is probably why we can see na yung regenerative agriculture requirement ni Donel na kailangan naka-in-place na yan. But the other side kasi is that while the European market is increasing yung kanilang mga regulations on coffee, they're not really increasing their prices. Now neighboring Vietnam is China, and China, parang they're not so interested in coffee so much apparently, because what they're asking Vietnam is tanggalin nyo na yung kape nyo, gawin yung durian. And this is already happening too. So Vietnamese coffee farmers are now shifting out of coffee and then planting durian. So yung ating global productivity in coffee will probably still go down, not just because of climate change, but also because of global trade and the demands of these huge economies. So medyo sensitive ang scenario ng coffee global outlook at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Donal and Sir Anton, for your patience and for your insights in answering our questions. So that concludes po our Q&A session. Thank you so much to both our speakers. So let's now proceed to the synthesis of our Usapan session today. So what's next for us, Sir Rai?
Thank you, Lorraine. And of course, Sir Donel, Sir Anton, maraming salamat po. It's a wonderful to see such engagement from our participants. Ano po, ang dami nating natutunan ngayong araw for sure. And before we proceed to our next session, let's take a group photo. I think someone will may help us, Miss Veron. And of course, may I request everyone kung available po ang inyong mga camera, pa-open po para sa ating group photo for today's session. So, ayun. Ayan. So, may nakikita ko yung mga ngumunguya na, no? May mga nagsiside. So, sorry na po, medyo napaganda ang ating presentation at usapan ngayong umaga. Extend lang natin ng konti. So, are we ready, Miss Veron?
Yes, thank you, Sir Rai. All right. Ayan. Ayan. Requesting to open your cameras po para makita natin ang magagandang ngiti kahit gutom na. Ayan, so yan. Salamat po sa stay po sa ating usapan session. All right. Ayan. 3 batch po tayo. So, smile po tayo. Yan. All right. 1, 2, 3, smile. Oh, wait lang po. Okay. Ayan. Sa batch 2, ayan. Paki-open po yung mga camera natin. sa ano natin. Alright. 1, 2, 3. Alright, may humahabol. Sige po, habol po kayo. Let's go. Ayan. Okay, smile. 1, 2, 3. Sa ating pangatlong pahina. Ayan. 1, 2, 3, smile. Alright. Thank you, Sir Rai. Back to you.
Maraming salamat, Miss Veron. Bukod sa napakaganda mo ngayong umaga. Okay, so to wrap up our discussion, let's invite our communications officer, Ms. Drisana De Jesus, to for the synthesis of today's session. Ms. Rina.
Thank you, Sir Rai. The Philippine coffee industry, celebrated globally during International Coffee Day, faces significant challenges such as limited production, high costs, and market competition. But through the Philippine coffee industry roadmap and collaboration among stakeholders in the government, private sectors, and support industries, efforts are underway to boost yields, improve sustainability, and enhance the livelihoods of coffee farmers. Today, we were joined by Nestlé and IVCPH. Nestlé Philippines has been in the country for over 100 years and contributes to 0.8% of the Philippine GDP. According to Nestlé, majority of coffee produced is in Mindanao. In the Philippines, we import almost everything, despite the fact that our country is the second largest consumer of coffee in Asia. Our production has been dropping. Coffee is not a priority crop. The priority crops in the Philippines are rice and corn. Compared to Vietnam, our production might be lagging. The youth is not interested in agriculture and farmers are around 57 years old. This is where the Nescafe plan steps in. Nestlé applies GAP, also known as Good Agricultural Practices, Responsible Sourcing, Regenerative Agriculture, competitive prices for suppliers, and engages the youth. Nestlé cannot implement this Nescafe plan alone. They emphasize the need of support from the government, civil society, the private sector, and universities. Nestlé has established a learning site for agriculture in Bukidnon and has employed the use of the Babangon Tayo campaign and Coffee Plus Plus in partnership with GIZ. According to Nestlé, collaboration is key. On the other hand, IVCPH thoroughly explained the concept of the value chain. Value chains create what is of value to customers as contrasted to supply chains. It asks, how do we make the customer satisfied? Value added and value capture is integrated. Complexity is part of the way value chains work. Eventually, we have to see that the coffee value chain's purpose is to provide coffee. There is a human side to the coffee value chain. While Nestlé tackled the supply chain, IVCPH asks farmers what their aspirations, burdens, and coping strategies are. Ano nga ba talaga ang pinagdadaanan at gusto ng mga farmers natin? IVC used the farming systems analysis to research on the coffee value chain's human aspect. Purposeful participation is important. Inefficiencies that we see in value chains include infrastructure at mga panahon ng krisis. Oftentimes, children build bridges when areas are carved out by flood surges. Coping strategies include the presence of traders. They need more sources of such funds and traders. Traders are business people, they buy low and sell high. They need to keep their cash moving. During the COVID pandemic, traders found alternative markets in Cotabato and Mindanao. Alternative markets are also influenced by ethnicity. Participation is necessary but not sufficient. This is a critique of a model of inclusion. Agency, voice, identity, and entitlements can be used as assessments for farmers. Universal human rights come in through basic needs, safeties, and securities. We rarely talk about the human, the farmer, or the trader, and the key resources that affect their daily needs. One thing is very critical: basic needs, safeties, and securities should be in place for everyone. We need to rethink our monitoring, learning, and evaluation practices. We need to be more qualitative, and we need to understand the stories and the needs of these communities in the coffee value chain. With that, we hope you learned a lot from today's session. Back to our host, Sir Ryan.
Ayun, maraming salamat, Drina. Before we wrap up the session, let's have a quick poll po muna. So, pa-extend konti, pasensya na po. We want to get your feedback on this learning session. We will flash a Zoom poll for our Zoom participants. So, sa ating mga nasa Zoom participants, pwede niyo pong i-click ang link below. Ayan. At least makapag 70% ng ating participants to answer this question. The first question is, did the event meet your expectations? So, dalawa lang po ang ating isasagot. Yes or no? Sana wala namang no. The second question is, what was your impression of the speakers and the topics for Usapang Kape this morning, today? You know? Okay, we have very good, good, and average. And the last question is, were you satisfied with the overall event? You have very satisfied, somewhat satisfied, and not satisfied. Sana wala namang not satisfied, no? So, ayun po. And also, just visit the comment section below. Ilalagay po ng ating team ang link. Just click the link sa mga naghahanap at or kailangan ng certificate of attendance. So, i-click lang po lang yun at mapupunta po kayo. Just fill up the details needs and then right away mapupunta po siya sa email na ibinigay ninyo ang inyong automatic certificate of attendance for today. So, ayun, we have 61. Iangat pa po natin hanggang at least 70%. 9% na lang. 65, 5% na lang. Let's go. Ay, yun po yung link. Nakita ko na. Pinost po ni Miss Veronica ang link for the certification. Just click and fill up and then right away, you will get your certificate of attendance for today's session. Na po. Okay, so I think let's end the question, the poll question. Ms. Veron. Okay, thank you. Okay, sa ating mga let's now welcome our country director, wala pong iba, para po sa kanyang closing remarks, si Ms. Angel Bautista. We will show the recorded message po ni Ms. Angel. Yan.
Magandang tanghali sa inyong lahat. Unang-una po sa lahat, gusto ko po kayong batiin ng belated Happy International Coffee Day noong October 1. And once again po, maraming salamat for joining PPSA's Usapang Kape. As we draw our Usapang Kape to a close, nais ko po magpasalamat ng lubos sa ating mga distinguished na speakers, our partners, and of course, sa inyong lahat, na ginawa po ang ating session today na very insightful sa discussion po on the state of the Philippine coffee industry at yung mga opportunities po that we can seize together. I would like to thank Nestlé Philippines and the Inclusive Value Chains Philippines project led by Donald Yadra and Anton Palo respectively for sharing their work with us in the coffee sector. Si Nestlé po ay binahagi sa atin ng kanilang experience sa pagtuturo po ng sustainable farming practices katulad ng regenerative agriculture and shade-grown coffee trees. Sa mga coffee farmers po nila sa Mindanao ito tinuturo. We also learned how these initiatives can help support yung ating environmental sustainability and resilience ng coffee farming sa ating bansa. Si IVC Philippines naman po highlighted yung mga hangarin o pangarap ng mga coffee farmers base sa kanilang value chain study na ginawa sa Sultan Kudarat. They emphasized that the engagement of smallholder farmers in value chains must go beyond mere participation. It must lead to real economic benefits. Shinare din po nila sa atin kung ano yung mga potential intervention points na pwedeng makatulong para mapalakas ang ating coffee sector sa Pilipinas. As we reflect on the discussions of our Usapang Kape, I encourage all of us to continue this momentum. Let us not allow these conversations to end here. Let us reflect on what we can do together. Sabi nga po natin, napaka-importante po ng mga collaborations. Ang role po nating lahat sa pag-drive ng growth and resilience ng coffee sector ay napaka-importante. Whether through private sector engagement, public-private partnerships, or multi-stakeholder efforts, working together is essential to overcoming the many challenges facing the Philippine coffee industry. Yung mga solutions po na na-discuss natin today are only as strong as the collective action we take moving forward. Thank you once again to all our speakers, partners, and participants. Let us continue to support our local smallholder coffee farmers. So tangkilikin po natin yung mga lokal na brand ng kape para po masiguro natin na tuloy-tuloy lang ang ating coffee industry sa Pilipinas, hindi po siya mawawala. At masiguro po natin na masusustain natin ang livelihood ng mga coffee farmers natin. So again, maraming salamat po, and may we continue to brew success together. Here's to a brighter, more sustainable future for coffee in the Philippines.
Thank you, Miss Angel. At that concludes Usapang Kape, where we explore the current landscape of the coffee industry in the Philippines. Heartfelt thank you po for all of you for being part of discussion. Maraming salamat po sa inyong time and effort na samahan kami via Zoom po sa mga participants natin, and also sa ating live through FB po na sumama sa amin. So maraming salamat po. This session was made possible by the Philippines Partnership for Sustainable Agriculture, along with our partners at Nestlé Philippines and the Inclusive Value Chains Philippines Project. We look forward to welcome you back to our next Usapan session next month, agad-agad. Yes po, sa October po. Thank you once again. Magandang tanghali sa inyong lahat, and wishing you a fantastic week ahead. So enjoy po yung inyong lunch at samahan nyo ng kape mamayang hapon. Paalam po.